Hello everybody, this is DLU here, and we've got something slightly different today. So, many of you will know me, I'm DLU, I'm a guy who talks a lot about LU projects. But today, here with me, we have Darwin, who, rather than just talking about the projects, actually runs them. In particular, he runs the project you'll probably all have heard of, just judging by the comment section, which is Darkflame Universe. So yeah, Darwin.
Yeah, hello.
That works. And for all of you who are here just because you want to hear about closed beta, there will come a bit where we talk about that later in the video, but I'm a terrible person who wants to torture you by forcing you to empathise with Darwin first, so you gotta listen through like a decent amount of the video to get to that. So yeah. Okay, so I've got a list of questions we'll ask Darwin, and yeah, hopefully this will be fun. We'll find out. So my first question is, how did all of this begin? How did you get started on all of this and end up leading a huge server project? How do you just sit down to your computer one day and do that?
That's a good question because, well, the latter part about like how this became like the largest LU server, I think that's mostly just because of how Neil handled PR. Because like, let's be honest, I'm way more closer to a developer than I am a PR manager. It's like if it was up to me and I would have like made a feature or something, I would have just like thrown it up like, hey, I did this. And it's not a very good way of managing PR or, you know, doing testing.
That's true, yeah. I remember, spending a lot of time because, LCDRU, for instance, was LCDR, and he just posted about it on the blog when he did it, whereas, Neil and the Twitter. I can't see you beginning a tweet with "Hello Explorers" or something like that.
That is most definitely not me typing that.
Yeah, I figured.
I mean, I have done it like on the forums a few times because, but yeah, that's pretty much the only time that I've done it.
Yeah, Neil makes you.
Yeah, but like, how did this start? Well, I mean, I was involved with like a universe when I was younger. I played the alpha version of the game. I did not play beta or live until free to play, but regardless, in alpha, as you know, there was like no protection on any of the files. So I was just deleting stuff randomly to see what would happen. I mean, the client just re-downloaded it most of the time, but you could also like rename files. Like, for example, you could swap out the minifigure with like mod or whatever. I didn't do mod at the time, but
didn't know about more back then. The greatest.
Well, actually, I mean, I did see her texture in the files, and I'm a little confused about it. But in general, though, when did DLU start is a bit of a broad question because there wasn't really a point.
Yeah.
So because like 4 days after the initial closure announcement, like 8th of November 2011, is when I first started messing around with RACnet. And I'm pretty confident in saying that I was the first person. Of course, we can't verify that.
Yeah,
anyone else did and just never posted about it.
4 days is pretty fast.
Yeah. But like in general, that was I couldn't really get it to work properly. So for a while, and I don't think many people remember this, but there was like this team called the Legend Team around December and January 2011, 2012. Where we were trying to recreate like a universe inside of Unity that did not end up going so very well.
Imagine trying to rebuild the game directly like that. It's going well first time, says the guy who's LNA.
Yeah, like a lot of people say like, oh, you could have just remade it in Unity or Unreal or whatever. And it's like, no, because there's no way you can capture all of the intricacies. And, you know, like LEGO Universe also has a brick building system in it, which is really, really difficult to recreate. And let's not do that.
Oh, come on, surely it's fine. If you've got Python, you just import LDD. Easy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's how you do it, right?
From Lego Digital Designer, import brick build. Easy.
That's easy.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess that's a fair thing I should point out for people who aren't too familiar with this, but yeah, the servers aren't being... Darwin's rebuilding the servers. He's not rebuilding the game like from scratch. Because a comment I get asked really often is, will this be accurate to the original? And I mean, I guess you can answer that, Darwin. Will this be accurate to the original?
Yes, that's kind of the point.
Yeah, but yeah, because they're rebuilding the servers, so it's not like they can. It would be harder for them to have like a bump in Avant Gardens that wasn't there in live than it would be to have just normal Avant Gardens, because you've got to go in and edit the terrain files because we have all of those. So yeah.
In general, because the only level editor version we have is older than the actual, current client that we're distributing, editing the existing maps like Avant Gardens would be more difficult than actually making a new map entirely. But
I love version control.
Oh, absolutely. But to get back to your question, I'd say that DLU kind of started as we know it around the time of 2013 or 2015, because not a lot of stuff happened at the time, but that's kind of when the first actual connections to the client were being created. And I remember that at some point I was just frustrated with Lanai, and I just went you know what, screw all of this. I'm just gonna open Visual Studio and write whatever. And I was supposed to leave to go on vacation at 5 a.m. or something like that. And I started at the evening before, and I just started writing code. And and then that was the first moment that anyone had ever actually gotten into the game without using any pre-captured packets whatsoever. And it also had the beginnings of the XML data where you had your shirt and pants.
Oh,
and you could
wow.
walk around. And yeah, I'd say that if you had to pinpoint one thing specifically, then that is most definitely the quote-unquote birth of DLU.
Yeah.
Although Neil and I had already decided on naming our server that years in advance.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's just funny because I'm sure for many people listening, I mean for me certainly, it's just sort of I can just about see now if I'm looking at Uchu, I can see how I might start adding stuff to the code. But yeah, just how you get started at any of this, how you start looking at RACnet, how people started decrypting packets, that's just all surprising to me. But it's interesting that, so you say this started back in alpha. I mean, effectively you were modding stuff then, and that's interesting. I didn't realize any of that you were mucking around with stuff back then. So was that quite common? Because I know I've seen some old forum posts where people were I think it was the pack files, because the old, from ages ago, the pack decompiler or whatever used to be.
Yeah, the
a link to a forum post.
Extractor from back in the day. Yeah. There were a couple of forum threads at the time. Most of them started around the beta for LU, because that's when most people got in.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
A person named Q-Ball, who was the first person that had ever captured the traffic from LEGO Universe back in the beta, and he made a thread about it on a forum dedicated to reverse engineering MMOs. And that's also where Rafa came from in Lanai, by the way.
Wow.
But that's irrelevant. Generally speaking, the PK extractor came from another forum that kind of just they specialize in just extracting assets from games. And yeah, someone there just documented it really quick, and somebody else wrote it, but it was not the best. I remember Hollis saying that he had to run it 5 times to get all of the files to actually be extracted, because it was skipping some randomly.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember I was so happy when I finally found LCDR's PK extractor, because it was just randomly half the files. No, I'm not going to do this. Just
yeah,
I'm out of here. Well, I think that answers that one. So the next question I've got here is basically, as a tester, genuinely, last night I literally just recorded a bit of a playthrough, and you've just got moments of I'm trying to be so quiet because I don't want to be loud and annoying for anyone else, because I've just moved into uni accommodation, but I'm just wait, this is implemented now? And I'm just getting progressively more excited about it. I'm sure it would seem like the tiniest things. I got so happy when I found the shield absorbed 3 hit points of damage. That was just brilliant. But yeah, so it's felt like DLU's recently made a ton of progress. So what's it like from your end? Does it feel like you've achieved a lot, or more that the groundwork has been there for ages, and it's just that we're as testers finally seeing it for the first time when you've actually known it all for ages, basically.
Well, this is a bit of a combination of the two. So, for example, a lot of what we've been doing over the past couple of years with like the rewrites and stuff that most people are familiar with is just that we didn't really have solid ground to stand on, so to speak. Because the first version that I had written, as I said earlier, was written in like a couple of hours before I left on vacation. And I was much more of a C programmer rather than C++. So it was written not very competently for a game of this scale.
Yeah.
And that was very apparent because it felt more like a test bed. And it couldn't handle like more than a couple of players at the same time before getting drastically, laggy. And then John wrote another version that was, better, but it still stumbled on a lot of other problems. And I don't know why, but it seems to have something to do with me going on vacation. But when I was on vacation, I think, last year is when I just had Linux open and I just didn't really have much to do. So I started writing a version of an LU server as I would do it, as if I were designing like a game engine.
Oh yeah, like sort of, I don't know, because it's not LU or anything like that, but I've been working with a couple of friends and a couple of computing projects, and it's amazing the difference of just sort of thinking, okay, I'm going to do this as though this is professional, and as though, I were doing this, as you say, for a game engine, the amount of difference that can make, that.
Yeah, I think that in general, just the mentality of the previous attempts weren't right, because we were trying to think as like, oh, this comes in and we need to respond with this, or we need to save this. But that's entirely wrong, because LU is a game and it should be, basically the server is running the game. It's just not rendering it. It's not displaying it. Its only job is to interact with people across the network. And you really have to start seeing it as a game. So it needs a game engine, it needs a physics engine, it needs scripts and everything like that. So I started building that, basically implementing the components and such. A couple of months later, that code basically got transported over to Windows, added Havoc and a bunch of other stuff. Avery and Johnny started working on it, and then all that was really left to do was add gameplay code. And that's a lot of the stuff that you're seeing right now, because while there was a lot of gameplay code, specifically like the behavior stuff, the skills, that wasn't documented, because Zypho was pretty much the only person that actually knew how any of it worked. And, Zypho had gone off to, be busy in personal life. The thing is, now we're seeing all that stuff, like the actual gameplay stuff that matters to players, is finally being brought over to a stable base. And that's what you're seeing right now. Though, of course, I can't discredit any of the team members, especially Vincent and Avery, for porting the scripts. Vincent has gone even further with the skill system than anyone else has, even Zypho. Because I think he's pretty much just figured it out entirely at this point. And AI has also gotten a huge boost thanks to Vincent's skill system. So it's a bit of a mix of the two.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting because I think at the time, just the bit you said about seeing the actual server as being the game and the client's just connecting to it. It's just funny because I seem to remember at some point in development you posted that and you were like, I wish I'd thought about it this way years ago, and I didn't realise that message. I was just like, okay, that's an interesting way of thinking about it. No, that literally changed the way you were writing code. That's cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, it changed. It changes a lot because at first, like I said, you were just thinking of like, oh yeah, message A comes in, message B goes out.
Yeah,
that's not right.
That's the thing is, I'm moving to now reconsider this because that was what I had in my head. I literally thought that was
that seems to be the general consensus, but it's completely wrong. If you were to write a server for an MMO, you have to write an actual game. You're not rendering it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so next question. DLU has had a decent amount of contact with various people from LEGO over the years. I mean, the thing that we most commonly bring up is the fact that, well, DLU is allowed to exist. Like, we had that, if you're talking about whenever someone asks the legality, we will cite Uni, that one email from TimTech received, and we'll cite the fact that you and DLU have had lots of contacts with the developers, or just, well, not even the developers, but just people from LEGO in general. So, yeah, I was just wondering, what is the funniest story or most interesting thing you've heard of happening back when the game was live before any of this stuff started?
So, back when the game was live, I think the best story for, like, that it would be YouTube friendly at least, is probably going
brilliant.
to be,
need to specify that.
I need to specify that because there are some stories out there that you can go read about LEGO Universe before it was open. Regardless,
okay.
My personal favorite is the bouncer on Skylane. So you know how in the very first level of LEGO Universe Adventure Explorer there is a bouncer that you quick build, and that's the first build you actually ever do after getting your imagination. Yep. That bouncer takes you up to Skylane to continue the mission chain. And during all testing, during alpha, closed beta, open beta, and stuff, this was never an issue, ever. Then on the day that it launched, like 4 hours in, they were like celebrating and stuff, and then they get called to their desk because the bouncer to Skylane was broken. But the problem was that it was only happening on about 1 in 100 clients, and it was not in any way, shape, or form capable. Like, you couldn't reproduce the issue. So, like, the people at mid-level had no way of actually, seeing what it was. And there were so many other safeguards in place because, let's say that the physics file for the bouncer was somehow missing, then the server the client would automatically try to re-download it. And even if that fails, it will still put in a box, like a 2x2x2 cube, that, like, while it wouldn't be 100% accurate, if you were to stand on the bouncer, it would still work, right?
Yeah.
And that none of it was going off. And they had no idea of how to fix it. And the only fix that they had at the time was to just make a Mithrin invisible stand at the platform with Skylane, and just like if someone got stuck, they would teleport them.
Oh, that is top tier. I love that. It doesn't quite beat DLU's fire.
Yeah,
actually,
but, like,
I think
the way that this eventually was resolved. Oh yeah, that's my favorite hack.
I think you should make Avery stand at the bottom and teleport players up. I prefer that to the fire hydrant.
I don't think that would end very well for him, but regardless, the way that this bug was eventually fixed was a hack as well, because of course they had no way of reproducing it, and they were under time pressure to get a fix out because having moderators stand there is very expensive. But back in the pre-alpha of LU, LEGO Universe was basically 100% played on the server side. The client only rendered stuff. Like, a key press would go to the server would do it, and then send it back.
That is...
So what this programmer did was he went back into the archive, find the code for the bouncers, and then put that on the server in like the live server. So what ended up happening was, like, let's say you came across this bouncer and the bouncer wasn't bouncing you, but the server is also keeping track of where you are in the game, of course. And if it noticed that you were on a bouncer, but you hadn't bounced for a certain amount of time, then the server would bounce you from the server side, and then it would work. It would feel a little laggy because you'd be on there for like a second before it actually bounced you, but it worked.
And at least you don't have to find like a weird parkour route to get onto Sky Lane's thing.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is he put in logging specifically for like if the server ever has to bounce anyone, it will like log it, right?
Yeah.
There was never a bouncer in any other world, or any other bouncer for that matter, ever failed. It was only that one bouncer at Skylane, and we to this day have no idea what caused it, but the only thing in my mind that I think it could be is that that bouncer had actually moved from, like, in alpha, it was in a different location than it is in the live game, and that's the only thing I can think of that would cause something like this.
That's interesting, because I know for stuff with the speedrunning server, like Encry was taking a look at the ridge along which we run and taking a look at the physics files, because there it just really doesn't line up and we can run along some places we really shouldn't be able to. And he found, that it's just this alpha stuff. Where was that bouncer in alpha, just out of interest?
In between the staircase and the actual platform, you can walk up to those 3 crates.
Yep. Oh, yes.
It's that little narrow space between the staircase and the platform of Skylane, instead of like being,
sort of out there. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more area. Out in the open. It was like between right now it's between the rocket launch pad and the platform of Skylane.
That's really interesting. That's cool.
I can give you a photo later if you want.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Yes. Vicey, remind me about this. So you obviously, I think you've listened to some of my videos, you obviously will not have heard this, but this is what the raw recording sounds like. It's just occasionally I'll have a breakdown laughing or something like that, because I will not be able to read something from a script properly or just be, Vicey, please edit this out. Something like that.
I think most of this can just remain unedited, and then you'll make it into a podcast of sorts.
Yeah, this works as a podcast, yeah. I think pretty much all of this can be edited. Okay. So, I can't even keep track of where I am on a notepad document. Okay, yes. So this has been going on for, well, as you say, technically 4 days after live, or 2013, 2015. What have you enjoyed most in all of this, in all of programming a servers? And I guess conversely, what's been the worst bit, maybe the most demoralizing, or just what's been the most and least fun of all of this?
I'd say the most fun is just when you get something working and then you can actually have people on the server and then they're reacting to it, and that kind of builds this loop of we're actually doing something, and it's motivating in its own right. And pretty much the exact opposite is the worst part, is when something doesn't work, and also just when there's a huge gap in between testing sessions, it tends to become demoralizing because you don't really know what you're doing anymore. And
and you're not getting that feedback from people. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's only so much testing or feedback you can get from other developers, because there's a couple of us, but it's completely different to see a complete outsider's perspective on it.
Yeah, that's cool. So and so I suppose if you're, I don't know, another thing going along with that. So you're saying that it can be demoralizing when you don't have testers in, but what about if you're saying it's really nice to see someone's reaction when something's changed, but does it then maybe get a little demoralizing when you're doing back-end stuff and you've implemented something that's really useful and helpful, you've done a rewrite and there's everyone complaining that DLU's rewritten again, this is rubbish, can they not just keep adding more gameplay features? Is that often a thing, or? you don't
Well,
feel
when I
that as
see
much.
comments online about people saying like, "Oh, why are they rewriting again?" I don't really mind it that much because I know what the reasons are.
Yeah,
But
that's true. That's a good
one
point.
thing that does annoy me is when, for example, with the AI in DLU was a good example of this because in the first week or so, it was just a quick test. Like it was working, but not like the stromlings were working, but that was about it. And like the week afterwards, I had smoothed them out like a lot. And whenever I saw the uploads of like DLU AI, it would always be like the first version. I was just like, no.
No, I can do so much better than this. Look at what it is now.
Yeah, that's the problem because like it doesn't end up mattering as much, but like it's still weird because yeah, or just when
Yeah,
people complain about old bugs in general when you know that they're already fixed.
yeah, that would be. But yeah, I guess there's a certain extent, especially in that case, you can. I don't know. The people evidently. I mean, I say the people. I'm sure this has been me at one time or another. But yeah, it's coming from a place of ignorance, at least in my case, when I muck something like that up, rather than from the fact that you guys have actually let down my expectations. I suppose. At least you know yourself. You've done it. Is what I'm trying to say. I guess.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, okay. So we were discussing this before it started because like everything in our like okay, people may not know, but it is a LU's code is a bit of a meme on the development channel and how it can be haunted, etc., and just really strange bugs. So, yeah, I've seen a couple of weird bugs crop up in my time. And I remember, yeah, during the first alpha testing, I remember watching this video. This was before I was involved in any of this. I was just like finding out, wait, Darkflame Universe exists, etc. And Jumbo Gauge somehow ended up taking control of your character. And yeah, that always sticks in my mind. I don't know, you've got something to say on that?
The thing is, I do remember that bug, but it's been so long that I don't remember what caused it.
Yeah.
But I do want to say real quick, like, there's no way of that happening in like the current version of the source, in case anyone is worried about their character.
Yeah, that's a good point. A good thing for I thought you were going to say there's no point because they can't take control of yours. I guess it's 50-50, the number of people who are concerned about their character and the number of people who just really want to take control of yours. But yeah, I guess so. What's the weirdest or funniest bug you've actually come across?
Well, there have been a couple of weird bugs, but not all of them have been really that funny. However, the most recent one that I'm sure you're familiar with is the land shark, which I kind of like.
It's a good addition. It's a good addition.
Basically, because the server is also keeping track of player velocity, the client might not say like, "Oh, by the way, I've landed," like soon enough, and the server thinks that you've just gone through the terrain and you've hit like a trigger for the land shark, and then boom, on the client you just suddenly get eaten by a shark, even though you're, for your eyes, you're standing on the terrain, but to the server you're just being eaten.
So, I mean, I guess the conclusion to draw from that, people, is in the current version of DLU, if you jump hard enough, you can break through the floor, at least on the server side.
Yeah, it happens mostly when you're doing stuff like a speed boost or when you're using a jetpack, which, I mean, most people won't have, but yeah.
Oh, so that's interesting. So it's to do with moving. So the speed boost, because that increases your players' like walk speed and forward velocity. So that's interesting. So increasing your forward velocity somehow ends up getting you through the floor or into the trigger. I guess it's just into a trigger. Maybe the triggers are in weird places. That's interesting.
Yeah, because LU only updates its position every so often, and if you suddenly start moving faster, the game doesn't actually increase the rate at which it sends stuff. so that's why.
Oh, of course. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That's interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to. We will fix it eventually. It's just a land shark happening now and then is not highest priority at the moment.
I mean, I not only is it not the highest priority, I think we should keep it in for live. It's brilliant. Yeah, Vaisky reminds me to send you image/video of the land shark if you. I can't remember if I feel this might have, no, it probably didn't happen on YouTube, did it? I think it's just DLU. Yeah, I'll send videos across.
It's just DLU probably. The thing is though, like it definitely needs to be addressed because on like if you think it's bad in Avant Gardens, you can literally not enter like the concert area in Nimbus Station without getting a land shark.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because Avant Gardens you've only got, because I've been experimenting with some outbound stuff in Avant Gardens, like the water doesn't actually extend too far, whereas Nimbus Station, that's like everywhere pretty much. Yeah, I can see that would be.
Yeah, plus the concert area is technically below the water, even though you can't really see it inside of the game. But like it is lower than the rest of the map.
Oh no. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. That would be a problem.
Yeah,
that's weird. I did not know
normally speaking, the entirety of the concert area, like if it was like that in real world, it would just be flooded with water.
So is the water just rendered out or something? Why don't we see that? Because I thought the water was just a flat plane.
Yeah, it's all like smoke and mirrors.
When you say smoke and mirrors, do you mean hacky Lego Universe code?
Yeah, yes, hacky Lego Universe is exactly the way that you would put it. Because if you're in the plaza, then the water is like, I don't know, maybe 1 minifigure depth below you. And then when you go down into the concert area, you're walking like, I don't know, at least 10 minifigures stacked on top of one another down. And then all of a sudden you see the water still at the same level. Like,
oh my god, this has just changed. I'm running through, walking down there. I'm just like, wait a second, no, that actually. How have I never noticed this? Yes. Yeah,
that's the thing. Most people never notice that.
Yeah, my god. That's brilliant. Wow, okay. That's cool. That is cool. Oh god, are there any more things like that I should know about? I feel this is... that is...
I mean, like, the universe is literally just full of it. If you use the jetpack and you've, like, flown through the maps, you can see where it, like, loads and unloads parts.
Oh. Yeah, because
give me a second. Alright, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. This is... Yeah, if you need to go, we can always do like a second half of this some other time, because this is taking... I don't know. I sort of expected there'd be like half an hour's worth of content in these questions, but there's a lot of interesting stuff to say.
We're running up like 40 minutes or something right now.
Yeah, we're at 35 at the moment. It is. Yeah. I mean, compared to the time when I said we'd start and when I started trying to get Audacity working, it's even longer. Yeah. Okay, so I mean, related to this question of weirdest and funniest bugs, what's been the hardest thing that you've come across to debug? Like, I don't know, I remember the occasional really weird bug happening in like LCDRU that he mentioned and that didn't make much sense, but have you come across many things like that?
Well, like the universe has a bunch of things that make zero sense when you're actually programming it. But like, for me, the worst one has always been the skill system, because it's basically a miniature programming language built into it. And I never understood it, so I'm really happy that Winston kind of like took over that.
Yeah, I do. I have taken a look at, and I mean, anyone watching this, if you're interested, there is, I'll try and remember to put a link in the description, there's luexplorer.github.io, probably something like that. I don't remember the full link, the actual link, I'll put it in. But yeah, you can see the skills, and for like a basic attack skill, maybe it'll be quite simple, but like for most of them, there are like a ton of checks. And Zyphosia, who Darwin mentioned earlier as being someone who's worked on a skill system, he's the one who wrote LU Explorer, and you just see this huge tree diagram he's got and drawn of like how the different parts of the skills interact. And when Darwin says it's like a programming language, I can believe it, because it is just huge and scary.
Yeah, back in when Lego Universe was being made, there were 2 people on the entire team who had any idea how to work with it. They had like spreadsheets, like what is it called, ceiling to floor,
Oh my
like on
god.
their cubicle walls, full of like pointers and reminders and stat values and everything. And that's why there's so many items in LU that are basically the same or use the same skill in a different way, because it's just so hard to add stuff to this monstrosity.
I mean, I guess that's pretty good for modding stuff in now though, because awful at the time. But and I mean, those 2 developers, they must have been very, very secure in their jobs, knowing that no one else could ever come in and work with this. But yeah, I mean, now that's got to give us, I say us, anyone who takes up server modding in the future, some degrees of freedom with like new skills, etc. If there's almost a programming language there.
Well, yeah, but I'm not gonna do that.
Oh yeah, no, no. For those who don't know, someone has been very clear on this in the development channel. I'm just like, yeah, LU mod, you're getting the game done, right? That's
the main priority.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, this is sort of part of... Given that, I think I know part of the answer to the next question, but yeah. Okay, so that would have worked as a segue other than the fact that the actual question I answered is the second part of the second question. So it's a rubbish segue on my part. But yeah, what are you excited for? Is there like a particular goal you're looking forward to DLU reaching? I mean, presumably releasing, but is there anything else? Or are you literally just looking forward to a time when this is done and you don't have this pressure anymore and you can finally just sort of be like, you know what, I started this, it's now complete, I'm done. Is there a particular goal other than that, or it's just waiting for that end?
Well, of course, it'll be very fun when this is finally done, and I mean, it would make me very happy, but I don't think that I'm ever going to just go away entirely.
Okay, true, yeah.
I still want to add more stuff to the game as well. It just won't be as big of a focus as, give me a minute. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no worries. But yeah, so you were just saying about, I don't know, yeah, it's still planning and adding things, but yeah, I mean, I'm guessing from now on, real life very much taking the priority. Well, no, I say from now on, from the point where DLU is completed. It's a case of, yeah, might add things. I mean, it's still your baby to some extent, but would it be fair to say it's your baby, but not a priority past that point?
Yeah, I think that in general, once the game is actually done, it'll mostly just be bug fixes, and I'd sort of just be helping people in the future content team creating new stuff. One thing that I personally would like to do is add like Lego Island as a world inside of Lego Universe.
Oh, there are a lot of Lego Island fans who would make very happy with that. Jumbo would definitely start, like, he's gonna. That would finally bring him over to the LU speedrunning community if he could speedrun Lego Island inside Lego Universe. That would be.
I just find it fitting because it's also like the first Lego game, so having it also be a world in LU feels appropriate to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll actually also focus, like maybe additional content will become an actual focus after this. But
yeah, it's unlikely and too hard to predict right now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Jumbo, yourself, and Hollis would be way more happy with having a complete game to make maps for and play around in.
Yeah, that's true. I think it would be. I mean, especially just before the weird like technical aspects of LU physics that we've been looking into for the speedrunning server, it would be cool to make a world sort of not quite showing off those, because I wouldn't want a world that sort of forces you to use wall clips to get through it, etc. But a world, because that would be awful. Only assembly engineers are allowed to go here, or people with a ton of boom trap kits who have spent tons of money on them. That would be so bad. But yeah, that sort of thing. It'll be cool to start adding stuff in.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. This I put in here. Totally get if you can't answer any part of this. This is fair enough. But I'm sure this is what people listening to the video, this is going to be the question they're really listening out for. And I know you can't give out any time frames for obvious reasons, and we shouldn't try to infer any. For those of you who are wondering why, please check out my video, What's Taking So Long, because I literally discussed an entire video discussing this, and I know otherwise I'll get this in the comment section. But given that we can't ask about any time frames, what are your plans in terms of features, maybe, or something like that, for ending the crash testing and starting closed beta? Do you have any? Are you just going off of feel, off of like the server stress, or is there a certain point you want to get up to?
So for the crash test, the final update that we're bringing out for it is just like we're gonna get properties out, and you'll be able to go to Nimbus Station. You'll join a faction, and like you're basically locked from that point on. You can't go to Gnarled Forest or any of the other worlds there. And I'd say after a week or two of that being up, we'll shut down crash testing, and then there'll be a little bit of a pause where we're fixing bugs, and people will be able to start signing up for the beta, the closed beta that is. And once closed beta starts, which I can't tell you when, but what it does. It will launch with all the same content, but it will also have Gnarled Forest in it, because that's kind of like the next step in AI and stuff like that.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. And that's basically what we want to do with closed beta. And after that, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, that's going to be brilliant, because I'm sure everybody who's like watched my channel for a little while will know the amount of time that has been spent me just running around to Vanguard into the Venture Explorer. You have maybe seen a couple of videos where I sort of delve into Nimbus Station, but like, there's not that much replayability. There are tons of missions you can do once and can't do much more of. So, I mean, from the perspective of someone playing, that would be amazing to have a new world. And I'm guessing from the perspective of many of the people watching, it'll be nice to see something that finally isn't me just jumping around the monument for once. That'll be brilliant to play. Just harder enemies as well. That'll be lovely. Sorry, I'm just fanboying at this stage. So
no worries.
So on the topic of closed beta, I've been theorizing for ages. There was I think I did it to begin with on the DLU forums, etc. Is there any? Can you give me any sort of idea? Again, totally understand if you can't, because making a promise is just, you're sort of setting yourself up for to not be able to meet it if real life takes over. But any ideas on what sort of shape the closed beta testing phase might take? Rough estimate of numbers, how people are going to be joining, anything like that. Again, totally get if you can't do that for obvious reasons.
Well, it's fair to ask that question because it's been a while, and it's not like me and Neil not discussed it, because we have. But in general, people would basically be signing up for the beta, as I said, after crash testing ends, and you will be able to sign up for the beta throughout all of the closed beta, actually. So it's not like, closed beta starts, you missed your window. You can still sign up. What will be happening is, when closed beta starts, we're thinking of accepting 500 people at once, at start. And then basically we will evaluate how the server is performing, optimize it if needed, and then we'll basically just start adding in waves of people from the people that have signed up.
Okay, wow. So how many people are in it at the moment? Because we've got in the Discord it's about 100 people probably, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, but that order of magnitude, that's gonna be interesting to see. Yeah, because I mean, especially the way DLU have done it in the past. You've seen huge peaks of testers right at the time you start. So I'm imagining what the peak of 500 testers suddenly being allowed to play all this at once is going to look like.
I mean, you should never assume that 100% of people will show up.
Oh,
but, you know.
True, but I mean, well, LCDRU being a prime example of the servers. Oh yeah, just for everyone else, like the servers on LCDRU are up 24/7 at the moment, but most of the time there is no one online at the moment, just because there's only a certain amount of replayability. But LCDR doesn't want to open the servers to tons of people and then have to tell them, well, you can't play now because there are more people online or anything like that. And also it's sort of a moot point because, well, LCDRU no longer exists, which is quite a good reason, but yeah.
In general, what we've definitely noticed during the crash testing is that the servers don't really care that much about the amount of players. It's more like there's very specific things where we made a mistake or an oversight in the code, which is causing it to crash. And that's what we're trying to iron out with the crash test.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool because, well, I mean, okay, for anyone who saw the video I did a little while back discussing will there need to be a cap? I mean, this is could there ever be a cap on player numbers? What would be the reasons for it, etc. And I said, like, I'm really not in a position to estimate like how much server load there would be. Well, it's looking like there's not that much. Then that's interesting. Or
yeah,
not
we'll
proportional
have to
to the numbers.
Spreading out the load if there were like a lot of people on for live. Yeah. But in general, right now we're not even scraping what the machine can do.
That's really cool.
Like all the testers on at once is not even 10% of the actual power that it can deliver.
Yeah, so you were telling me this the other day, and I figure it's good to bring it up now. The bit about the stuff that the lag we observe was to do with you guys with the LU client or something, or was it RackNet having a built-in limit on packet sizes, and we were just throttling that rather than it actually being the server not coping.
So what was going on? It was not that the game server was not accepting input or was running slow or anything like that. What was actually going on was currently, for mostly debugging purposes and others, we are not using compression on the data we send out. And we're also just sending out all the data every single update, because that makes it very easy to go look if something goes wrong. But a side effect of that is that we had also put in a limit of how much, I think it was set to 10 kilobytes a second, which is a lot for game data, by the way. 10 kilobits a second was the max amount of data that could be sent per second to a singular connection. So what was happening was when you would log into DLU and everything was working fine up until like a minute or two into the game, or shorter if there were a lot of people on, because that means more updates.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would basically just get smacked with that 10 kilobytes a second limit, and it would feel to the client like the server wasn't responding anymore because it was all being delayed. But no, it was just that the server was sending too much information each second. So we tried increasing that limit, and I think currently it's just off altogether until we actually start adding compression into it, and then we can reinstate that limit. But yeah, it was never the server actually running slow. It was just that you were running into a bandwidth limit.
Yeah, that's interesting because and I can say because as I mentioned earlier, I think I did a full playthrough, or I say a full playthrough, a playthrough of like the quest chain as far as you can get on DLU at the moment last night, and it was perfectly smooth. That definitely seems to have worked. But yeah, so my last question is basically, what's next? You've been working on this for ages, so guessing it'll be quite a relief when you're done, but do you have any plans for where you'll go on from here? I'm guessing somewhere game development, computer science. I mean, it would be a total waste if you didn't, given you've done all this, but any particular plans?
Well, not much that I can mention immediately.
Yeah, of course.
But, like, I definitely do want to stay in, like, game development or software development, at the very least. And me and Neil have also been talking about making a game, or, you know, I assume that people at this point know that Avery and I really like messing with stuff, so maybe we'll do a game as well. So we'll have to see what happens. In general, I'll definitely still be making games, even if my job ends up being like software development, for example.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you've definitely got a nice player base to advertise to, or a nice people who would be interested in hearing if you did. I get rather than to advertise to. Although, I mean, if I'm just imagining the DLU launcher, but rather than the thing that currently comes up saying we're in the crash testing phase, just this is Darwin's newest game. Play this. It costs.
I don't think we'll ever actually do that.
Yeah,
no.
I suspect you. I strongly suspect you wouldn't. But yeah, it's like £10 for this game. You buy it on Steam, and then it's just microtransactions. The game, because I hear you love loot boxes. I hear that was a thing a while back.
Did you just say love or loathe?
I said love, but I was being sarcastic. Don't worry.
Yeah, I absolutely despise loot boxes. In case anyone's watching that doesn't know, but yeah, I think loot boxes are an incredibly predatory tactic, especially if they're loot boxes that you have to buy.
Yeah, I think you've got a lot of people who'd agree with you there. Okay. Yeah. So at this point, Darwin thinks the interview's over. However, I have written at the bottom of my thing 2 secret questions, which didn't tell him about in advance because I'm an awful person. Sorry. Yeah, first off, pineapple on pizza. What's your opinion?
Absolutely not.
Well, this interview's over. I'm not getting to the second question. That is... Okay, everybody. It turns out I am no longer supporting Darwin and Lego Universe, etc. This is now going to be a Fortnite channel. Sorry.
I do have a reason for it, though.
Okay, let's hear it. Yep.
I'm allergic.
Oh, okay. That is. Yeah. Okay. I mean, that works as a reason. That's fair enough. The other secret question is: come on, who's your favourite forum mod? There's a correct answer.
There's a correct answer. Who's my favorite forum mod?
Sorry, I cannot add that question in. No, I'm not going to actually make you answer that because that'd be. Well, actually, no. No, because I also don't want you to answer it because I know now I've put you on the spot. You're going to do someone else to wind me up. So. I
mean, yeah, I was literally about to say Blaster.
Yeah, fair enough. GG.
For that exact reason. Not that Blaster is Blaster is an excellent moderator and designer, though.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, for those of you who don't know, an excellent blogger. He has his own channel in the Discords to just tell us about stuff going on in the world of technology, which is fun. But yeah, okay.
That he does.
So yeah, I think this is about it. This was going to be I thought maybe 15 minutes, half an hour. We are currently coming up. It is 57 minutes, as I said that pretty much. Thank you so much, Darwin, for taking the time to do this. I know this was definitely longer than I expected. I'm guessing it was longer than you expected as well. Thank you so much. Yeah, I really, really appreciate this. If there's anything else you want to say at the end?
Well, it's not really any problem. You're very welcome because, as you said, not a lot of people get to hear from me directly because I'm not that active in LUCH and stuff. And also, I think it is helpful to share with other people what we're doing and stuff like that. And to add to that, I would also like to say, on the amount of players for closed beta, I'm not saying that this is a guarantee, but I feel like if we ever got 1,000 people on during the beta at the same time, and that would be really cool. And I also don't want people to forget that there is going to be an open beta as well, where anyone can join, because it's meant to simulate live.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember back in the day when I first joined, etc. Yeah, huge. I mean, I was, even back then, we knew there were so many phases to go. Huge hype for open beta. That's brilliant. Well, yeah. I mean, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you for having
thank you
me.
very much. Oh, thank you so much for coming. Because, yeah, it's not. I'm sure it's nice for people to hear someone who actually knows what they're talking about for a change. Yeah. Thank you all very much for listening. As always, I'll put stuff about the developers in the description, developer channels as usual. Support them in any way you can. I mean, you've heard this outro 1,000 times. And I will also put Zyphosia's LU Explorer in there because it's worth checking out. It's really cool if you want to sort of... I should have brought that up in my previous video about what it takes to be a dev or etc. because that's a really cool tool to sort of take a look at how this works. Even if you're not interested in being a developer, it's amazing to see. But yes, thank you all very much for listening. I mean, yeah, that's it. I don't have anything else to say. Bye.